Welcome to Fandom and Wellness, a podcast about the complex relationship between fandom and mental health. Disclaimer, we are not psychiatrists or psychologists. We are just fangirls with a vested interest in mental health. This is Jenny, and I have two very special guests joining me today, Ashley Poston and C.B. Lee.
Woo!
So Ashley is the author of the Once Upon a Con series and the Heart of Iron series.
Yes!
And C.B. Lee, I don't know why I have just C.B. Lee there. Carrie, is the author of the Sidekick Squad series and also 7 Tiers of High Tide. So let's start with Ashley. Can you just tell the listeners about the Once Upon a Con series?
Of course, sure. So the Once Upon a Con series is just not a bunch of fairy tales, but it tackles one fairy tale at a time, and I update them into a con setting. So the first one is Geekerella, which is basically Cinderella at a sci-fi convention. And the second one is called Princess and the Fangirl, and it's a Prince and the Pauper retelling, but it's gender bent, so there are two, fierce girls, and it's fantastic. And the third one coming out in summer of 2020. Oh my god, it's almost 2020. Oh!
It's not a real year.
Oh my god. It's called Bookish and the Beast, and wow, it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. Who knew?
No. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's about fangirling and the conversations we have in fandom, and it's a lot of fun. And a lot of the drama is directly inspired from Star Wars. I'm not even going to joke anymore. I mean, he literally lost the script in Princess and the Fangirl. It's fine. I'm fine with this. I'm just writing reality now.
Well, yeah, your book, you wrote it first, and then it happened. Was it John Boyega?
Yeah, it was John Boyega who, lost his script.
He really lost his script?
He lost his
script.
script.
Was it in a trash can?
It was under his mattress at his hotel, and his house cleaner found it.
Oh.
And it ended up on eBay.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
I was like, ha ha ha.
Yep. That's awesome. I personally really like retellings of fairy tales because I feel like they're so outdated, right? And usually they're not as feminist as I would like.
Yeah, Cinderella, she has to rely on Prince Charming to save her in the original tale, but I really hate that part of Cinderella, so I updated it because my favorite movie is Ever After with Drew Barrymore.
Love it.
Just so good. So I was like, you know what, she's gonna save herself, and the Prince Charming is gonna be this really soft Hufflepuff boy, and it's just gonna be real fun, and she's gonna end up saving him instead. So that's what ended up happening. Spoiler, I guess. Oh, who cares? It's been out for a few years. Everyone knows the story of Cinderella. It's not really a spoiler.
Right. That's cute, though. And you also have the Heart of Iron series.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that, too?
Sure.
They're amazing! They're so good.
It's, how much can we curse on this show?
As much as you like.
All right, it's my fucky robot book.
Oh my god.
It really is.
God.
It's my fucky robot and fucky alien book. I mean, that's just that's it. that's the tea. It's actually an Anastasia. Well, it's an Anastasia retelling in parentheses. It's not really, but that's how we marketed it. Because, if you look into the history of Anastasia, it's, not really a fairy tale anyway, but,
no.
There's a lot of stuff to unpack with the Romanovs, and I don't do any of that because it's just, it's the lost princess trope, but everyone knows the best one is Anastasia. Not the best one, but the most renowned one is Anastasia.
Right.
So I always say it's an Anastasia retelling, but it's really just a take on the lost princess trope.
Right.
But yeah, it's about a girl named Anna who's a part of this pirate crew, and the ship's called the Dossier, and it's captained by this fierce captain called Captain Siege, and she has to go and save her best friend who happens to be a robot from this great technological darkness that's sweeping through the solar system.
So badass. Sweet. And Carrie, can you tell us about the Sidekick Squad series?
It's so good.
Yeah. It's a quartet, and I'm just saying that because there are 3 that exist currently, and people may not know that there's a 4th one, which will complete the quartet. Yeah, but it's about a group of queer teens that take on a corrupt government superhero agency.
Sorry. You're playing with something and it's
it was
going
the
to
seal.
the microphone.
I have to fiddle with my hands.
No, I get it. Yeah,
I'm buying you a fidget spinner for Christmas.
Thank you.
You should get one of those spinner rings that you can spin on your ring finger.
Oh, I have one of those. They work so well.
There's one, actually, I met someone at DragonCon who had it made different noises. You just go boop, boop, boop. It was like bubble wrap, but in a contained thing that it was like infinite bubble wrap. Like you would poke it one way and then you could poke it back the other way, and there are 2 of them, so you could just go boop, boop, boop. It was amazing. I was playing it with it for 10 minutes, and they were like, "Cool." So you like that.
So those are recommendations for fidgeters.
Oh wait, yes, my books. Okay. Yeah, it's about a group of queer teens that take on a corrupt government superhero agency. The first book starts off with Jess, whose parents are superheroes, and she doesn't think she has any superpowers. So she's like, well, I guess I have to get a job at some point. I don't really know what that entails, but I guess internships are a good place to start. So she ends up working at this tech company, also gets to work with her crush from school, Abby, and then they uncover this huge conspiracy, and then it kind of goes from there.
Nice. And then the books after that explore the other friends in the friend group,
Yeah,
right?
So the core 4, there's each book has a different perspective of a different person, and then it moves forward in chronology. Not Your Villain, which is Bells' book, has a little bit of overlap with book 1, just because a lot of stuff was happening for him during that time, but you don't see because there's a huge, okay, yeah. But, you know that the second book is his, so, unless there's, a reveal, I'm trying to, okay, he's doing his own thing.
Okay, just read it.
Don't spoil us, God.
It's great. Just read it. Yeah, I love the, method of having 2 different stories from 2 different, the same story, basically, from 2 different perspectives. That's such a fanfiction trope, but I love it. It's great.
Oh gosh, it really is, isn't it, though?
Right?
Have you ever
it's
seen
a thing
that
I've read a lot.
diagram that's canon, and canon's one straight line, and then AU, which is kind of parallel, and then drabbles are like scenes that are elaborate where they kind of point us a line outside of canon.
Right.
There's time travel, which is less just circles,
wibbly wobbly, timey wimey.
Yes. Yes.
There's canon divergent, and then they wrote crack, which is just someone throwing paint onto the timeline.
That's so true, though. Oh my god,
that's great.
So good.
Yeah. So I know you guys because we've for my company we've made book boxes for your books, which me and Rose really enjoy doing. And so I know Carrie actually from Teen Wolf fanfiction. That's how I first knew you. And then I met Ashley through Quark, I guess. Mm-hmm. So and we've met up at DragonCon, I think, for the past 2 years.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Yeah.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, because I've only been going for 2 years. So, but I want to kind of follow your journey from when you first started writing, whether that's 4 years old or whatever, to where you are now. Let's start with Ashley again.
Me?
Let's do it.
Okay.
When did you feel like you wanted to be a writer?
Oh.
Or at least when did you find out you loved writing?
Oh boy.
Was it when you were young?
So I was in 6th grade.
Okay, that's pretty young. Yeah.
And I stumbled upon this forum during Web 1.0 because I am an oldie. And in the forum there were these weird stories, and I was like, why are they writing about characters from this show that I really like? And so I figured out it was fanfic. And so I started writing fanfic of my favorite show. And my favorite show at the time was Yu-Gi-Oh!
Nice! So, love it.
So I started writing Yu-Gi-Oh! Fanfic when I was in 6th grade, and like at that point I still wanted to be a marine biologist really badly because I loved dolphins. I wanted to swim with the whales, and I loved Free Willy as a kid, and then in 7th and 8th grade I realized just how bad I was at science and math.
Oh.
But I was pretty good at writing fanfic, apparently. So I tried to get into the governor's school in my state, and I submitted some of my like original stories, and they like accepted the most gifted students like for a summer internship sort of thing. And they like denied me for 2 years straight, and I was like, I'm going to show you guys. And so yeah, I just like
did you get in eventually?
I never got in, but
okay.
No.
But my senior year of high school, because I started writing when I was in 6th grade and I never really stopped, right? So my senior year of high school, I wrote a play, a 1-act play that ended up going to the state championships, and it was up against the governor's school play, and mine won.
Yes!
So I was like,
vindication!
Yes! And like
amazing. I love it.
It was like it won for like best direction and like best actor, and I was like, yes, you know, it was.
Did you ever good. This is what you could have had?
Actually, yeah, I was like, this is what you could have had, guys, but no, you had to reject me all those years ago. It's fine. I'm not petty. I don't hold grudges at all. But yeah, no, like I started in 6th grade and it just never stopped. And I think it was also around that time that I just like really loved books, and I loved like reading, and like I started back when YA was just beginning, and like I always knew I wanted to write for like teens at least, but I also like now that I'm like further on in my writing career, I also want to like write other genres too, and for other like age ranges. And yeah, it's a journey. It never really ends. How about you, Carrie?
Yeah,
I feel like I've been writing for forever. In middle school, I had a journal where I'd write like these elaborate, like I started this like epic fantasy that I wrote like 4 chapters of it in like longhand. And then I found it recently and was like, maybe I should finish this.
That's awesome.
But I kind of forgot about it. I didn't write a lot in high school. I read a lot, and then I kind of like got swept up in like school stuff, and you gotta be serious and like do all these things to prepare for college, and then life stuff. And like, I started on this path to become a scientist. And then I was like super unhappy. I worked for a lot of, I quit grad school, was like going to get a doctorate, and was just like, well, actually, no. So, and then between then I worked a lot of like odd jobs. Like I worked for, I was a ranger for a little while at a state park.
Okay. All right.
I worked for like Outward Bound and led a lot of backpacking trips and adventure type stuff. I worked at a rock gym, and that was before grad school. And then after grad school, I was back in LA and, did a bunch more like freelance stuff, got into like photography, and then during that time, kind of like 2012, 2013, 2014 era, I was like super depressed, and I had a lot of like time, and I consumed a lot of shows, including like Supernatural and Teen Wolf, and like all of these shows that were kind of had a lot like blossoming fandoms.
Right.
And so I started to write, I had written like Harry Potter fic like way back in the day, and did a lot of like RP and mostly read fic. But I think I have like maybe like 2 or 3 one-shots. And then I wrote Artemis Fowl fanfic.
What? I did too. What?
Yes, no, we had this conversation at dinner. Remember when we had this like relationship, like, wait, did you write that one with so we may have read each other's Artemis Fowl fanfic.
I think
That's amazing.
I think we did actually, because I do remember going back and like looking that up. So
yeah, the old days of fanfiction.net.
Man.
Like I talked to my characters and the author's notes. It was a time.
Yeah, it was. Oh man, the early aughts were a trip.
Yeah, the early aughts. And then 2013, I was like, I was like in this space where I was looking for more stuff to like use my time with and that I liked doing. Yeah. So I started writing fanfiction again, and it was really in that community where like people were like reading it, and like it was like a very fast moving, the show comes out every week. I'm updating every week. I'm writing more fic, to the point where like there was one day I looked at my word count and it was like, oh, that's like 3 novels. Like, what's going on? Like, I've always wanted to write a novel and I never thought I could. But like, that's like 300,000 words. Like that's
3 novels.
Yeah. Or more, you know? And then I saw, so Interlude Press started in 2014. And so they're a queer, like they publish like queer fiction. And they started with like, their mission was just to like publish queer fiction. And they started in romance. And then they launched their YA imprint and we're doing like, an open call for short stories for this anthology called Summer Love. And I was like, oh, like I could write a short story. Let's see if I can write that. Like I had nothing to lose. So I wrote a short story. I love seals, as you may have guessed. So I wrote about a selkie and the editors loved it. They loved the manuscript and then were going to offer for me to be in this anthology. And then the first time I met with my editor in person, and not in person, like over the phone, but like she was like, oh, so I had some questions because the limits of the short story, not contest, the call for submission was, it had to be 15,000 words or less. Right. And so she was like, it felt like there's so much more here. Like, what would you have done if you didn't have that limit? And I was like, oh, actually, let me tell you. Like, I cut off all these subplots and I had all these ideas. And she's like, oh, cool. That actually sounds really amazing. Like, would you be interested in developing it as a novel? So I pulled out of the anthology and then that became my first book, which is 7 Tears at High Tide. So that's just like a sweet, like, it's about a bisexual boy who's like brokenhearted and he makes a wish, not realizing that his wish like is the catalyst for this huge magic. And he meets this selkie boy and then they fall in love and there's adventure and romance and but yeah, that was my first book. And after writing one book, I kind of realized like it was the same thing where like, you know, looking at how many words I'd written and we're like, oh, like what I thought was this huge, terrifying, undoable thing I could actually do. So when I got that idea for the Sidekick Squad, which initially was like Untitled Superhero Trilogy, I pitched that to my editor and then they loved it and they were like, okay, so I wrote the first book and then when I got to the end of the first, or close to the end of writing the first book, I was like, oh, okay, this is not going to be one book. Oh, forgot a part of the story. Originally it was one book. Then I had to re-sign the contract for Untitled Superhero Trilogy and then redo it again when it was a quartet.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's been a really interesting process because it was not like I only got an agent in 2018. So it's very recent. So it was in it. I recognize I'm very lucky to have had like the journey that I've had because it's not a very like normal journey. I feel like it was a combination of a lot of things, of luck, of like my book, Not Your Sidekick came out in 2016. And it was like, I went to Dragon Con for the first time and like got to hold my book for the first time and met all these amazing people. I met Cindy Pon at like a Romantic Times conference.
I love Cindy.
Yeah, and Cindy's so amazing. And she really like, and she was like, oh, hey, do you want to do this article on diversity in YA, which she runs with Melinda Lowe. And then it was like, when the cover was revealed on Tumblr, I remember like not being home or something and it was revealed like on a Friday. And then I looked at it on a Sunday and it had gotten like something like 5,000 notes. And I was just like floored. Like I was like, how did this happen? Like what's happening here? Why are like, who are all these people that want to read my book about like a bisexual Chinese Vietnamese American girl with superpowers? But like, I think that was like enough. Like the cover, the synopsis, people are like, oh yeah, that sounds cool. I want to read it. Where is it?
It's a pretty amazing cover, I have to say.
It is spectacular. Troy Messer, who does the covers, she's incredible. She totally brought like the concept to life and was like very, like you can see that she's a person of color. You can see like it's like about fun and it's very dynamic. Yeah, I was really lucky and I'm so grateful that like a lot of like queer readers were really excited. A lot of Asian American readers were really excited. And, you know, like 2016 was kind of like the blossoming growth of like we need diverse books, which started in 2015, I think 14.
I think so. I think I might have been 14.
14, 15, but like that kind of like those kind of conversations were starting on like social media and in the YA community and the book community, and people at the time, and I think more so like it's interesting to see how far we've come in just the past few years, where like people were like, oh yeah, we should be inclusive, like that's old hat, why are we even talking about this? Whereas, like I remember just like even in the early days of writing, like, oh, if I write about girls, will people want to read about them? You know, like, if I write a romance between two girls, is it as marketable? Because there would generally be people in like Facebook groups and like publishing stuff that would be like, oh yeah, like girls, like no one will read an FF romance because it doesn't sell.
Yeah, it doesn't sell.
Yeah, and that was kind of this thing that was floating around for the longest time. But I feel like it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, because then like people say this and then writers don't write it, and then readers don't have anything to read. So, but I feel like it's definitely been challenged. There's so many amazing like best-selling books that are like romances with girls, and like there's so many amazing like queer girl books just in like the past few years. Like I feel like it's exploded. Like Melinda Lowe has this really amazing article, because Ash came out like 10 years ago.
Oh my god, it's been 10 years already?
Wow.
So on the 10th anniversary of Ash, she wrote this article, like, and she does a lot of these really cool statistics where like she counts like how many like YA books with queer characters there are. And just like, and so like when Melinda was publishing, and then like now, and so it's just cool to see how much more we have, which is amazing, and like how many different genres we have, and we can talk about all these different things about like, oh, now I went, like I used to be like, oh, are my gays in space, and now you can create a stack of books with gays in
now
space.
There's so many gays in space.
Excellent,
amazing.
Excellent.
Oh, it's so good. Oh my god. And just this year there are so many good gays in space.
Yes.
And so, talking more about like being a writer, have there been instances of like rejection that you have faced? Other I don't know why I asked.
Since this is an audio format, I will describe the anguished look on Ash's face right now. But I'm also making a like, oh my gosh, like.
So listen, let me reword that. Tell me about all the rejection that you have ever faced.
Every rejection. No. When I was in the 5th grade, I wrote a Valentine. I'm just kidding.
No! Tell me who it was. I will go and knock on their door and tell them they were wrong. But okay, so when I was first starting out writing, the normal process is you write a book, you query it, you try and get an agent, and then you try to submit it to publishers. And there's a lot of rejection there. And so for the first half of that journey for me, I got 64 rejections. 64 rejections. It's fine. I'm fine. It's totally fine. And
oh my god.
I remember like I tacked them all to one of my walls in my bedroom because I wanted to keep track of how many there were, and I wanted to wake up every day looking at those rejections going, I can do this. And I didn't get a 65th because Holly Root was like, yo, I want you. And so I was like, oh, good, because I'm slowly dying here.
But how do you stay motivated when you get that 5th, 6th, 7th? Like, there's, how do you keep going?
Well, like, so you have to. I know this is like what I have to do. I'm not sure if like Carrie is similar, but I have to like separate my writing from my career in the business. Because I've written fanfic for so long, I feel it's easier for me because I can write for joy without like thinking that it's part of my career. And I think that's very important, especially when you're like on submission and you're getting rejections from editors and they're like, oh, we already have something like this, or this isn't really my type, and you go on for months and months and months on submission and you're like, why isn't anyone buying this thing? And so while like that's going on in your professional life, like you have to keep on writing the next thing, because if you don't, you'll just stagnate and you'll just you won't go anywhere. And so like you have to find a way to like pry those two things apart and not have them like be married to each other. They have to like work individually of each other, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Like you have to keep writing regardless of whether your professional life stands still.
Mm-hmm. And like,
right?
and you have to genuinely like to write to be able to be a writer. Right. You don't have to like writing all the time, because God knows I definitely do not. But like for most of the time you have to like writing it to like some extent, and you have to write because you like to write, not because you like the paycheck or you like, you know, getting that sweet 6-figure deal that most people actually don't get. So yeah, it's just, it's a hard career, but friends make it a lot easier too. Like Carrie.
Yeah. Would you say that's like you are always they're doing hearts with their hands.
I heart you, Carrie. You're one of my favorite people in the world.
Oh, you're one of my favorite people.
No, you.
I actually gotta go, so you guys.
How dare you, Jenny?
Oh,
you're amazing. Yes. You're valid.
And you know what's interesting is that I remember you, Carrie, as a pretty prolific author in the Teen Wolf fandom.
Did we talk about this? I feel like we haven't had this conversation.
Probably not.
Because this is new to me. I was just...
No.
Also, like, did you
prolific.
write Teen Wolf on fanfic.net?
No. It didn't exist then. Teen Wolf started in, like, 2013, I think.
So,
2011.
20, okay, well, I didn't watch it until 2013. So.
Okay.
Where did you write your... Where did you write your fic on?
I had an account on fanfic.net, and then I had a GeoCities page, and...
Were you guys on LiveJournal at all?
Yes.
A little while, yeah. I was... Oh, that was the time when I was writing, like, Naruto fanfiction.
Oh my god, I'm going through, like, Naruto right now, Naruto, whatever. And listen, like, I am trying so hard not to read the fic because I'll be spoiled by it, because I don't know what happens after Itachi dies, and that's where I am right now.
Yes, because you just started Naruto.
I just started.
That's so funny.
So I'm like, recently.
I don't know what happens.
That's okay.
And somehow I have not been spoiled. I'm not sure how that happened.
That's magical. It's because it's been on. It's like really. It's been long. It just finished.
No one even thinks about spoiling it.
There's the second gen Naruto. So
yeah, Boruto.
You know that he has a kid.
Oh my god.
And like now there's like a time travel arc in Boruto that like goes back into the Naruto arc.
What? What?
Yeah.
That's wild.
It's like meta-ing real hard.
That's so much.
What the fuck?
Wait. Yeah, you were talking about Teen Wolf.
Right, yeah. Sorry.
So, and I remember you like producing like regularly work, which I always find very difficult to do personally.
That was a time. I had no life. I'm not. I still write fan fiction, but like it was from a time where I was like pouring all of this like energy into something where I would just write all the time. And it was good. It was like what I needed to do for myself at that time. And I was like super depressed, and I kind of like wrote my way out of that particular arc of my life through like fan fiction and like the community, and just I did a lot of prompts, and I found a lot of like joy in like people would be like, oh, I'm having a really bad day, or like this happened, or I'm really depressed, or like I have this really terrible like situation that I can't leave, but like this thing brings me joy. Can you help me? And I found I could do that, and like I found like it was really like not only because like I liked the characters and I liked creating stories, but I really liked like it felt really good to create something that was very specific to like this one person's request. Whether it's like,
Right.
oh, I would like a coffee shop where in space or whatever it is. And I'm like, okay, cool. Coffee shop in space. Okay. And then I could like think of a situation and immediately like apply those characters. And like, you know, we talked a little bit about before, like where I think like fic writers have this, like, you learn so much and you have like a specific set of skills that prepare you for like, just as a writer in general in life. Because you know how to, like, what shapes a character. You know them in and out. Where if you're putting them in an AU, you know what makes that character. And, like, if you change one specific thing or you send them to Hogwarts or, like, you know, beyond, like, what's their house. But, like, you can know, like, knowing how to write an AU of something, I think is such an amazing skill. And there's so many other things like learning how to execute a trope. How do you subvert a trope? How do you, you know, there's so many cool skills that you learn from writing fanfiction.
How do you write a mermaid AU? Sorry, I'm on a mermaid AU kick right now. Just saying. I have like read so many Voltron mermaid AUs, it's not even funny.
Well, talking about that like period of time in like basically fanfiction helping you through your mental health. Hey, that's what we're here to talk about.
Yay.
Like, I've talked on a previous episode about fanfiction and how it was a really good way to escape life that felt shitty at the time. And I was talking more about reading fanfiction, but certainly writing fanfiction also fills that void, especially because you write exactly what you want to read. And that's a great thing about being a writer, right? Because you know there's a void, there's something you want to read, but it's not out there, so you write it yourself.
Yeah, or something you didn't know you wanted until it existed, or you made it, or like, you know, there's a lot of stuff that I'm like proud of that like I just thought of on the fly, but it came specifically from like prompts or like people, and it or like, oh, this random thing that happened when kind of like the magic of like someone creating this art and then someone adding a headcanon and then jumping off on that and creating a whole fic, or like people responding to things and just these chains of like, oh, I drew this art. Oh, I wrote fic for your art. Oh, I drew art for that fic. And like,
it makes you feel like so much less lonely, especially when you're in like the pit of depression and you can't go outside and you just you feel less than a person. It's just you can go online and you can like write this fic without even leaving your bed, and other people comment on it, and like you're still a part of something, and it just makes you feel a little like more human, I guess, if that makes any sense.
That was like Harry Potter for me in high school, where I was like, I would read so much and I didn't like participate, but like I remember like, oh, it was always there for me when I wanted to read something. And then coming back to like fan fiction, like as an adult, was like, you know, that sense of community and not feeling alone. Like, I'm reading this, but also like 10,000 other people are reading it at the same time. And it would like blow my mind about like just like the shared experience and like the fun. And like I made so many great friends, and I felt like it really like boosted my confidence, like not only as a writer, but like as a person. Just because like I was so depressed, like I had gone through like a lot of major changes in my life and had this terrible breakup, and like I was like, oh, I'm never going to be happy again. And it was like kind of like the worst depression spirals that I've ever had. And I had a lot of anxiety and I didn't know how to cope. And it became to the point where like I literally did not leave my house for like, you know, just like except to do basic things, but I didn't have any reason to. I didn't want to see any like of my old friends. Didn't want to make any new friends, but I started to make friends through fandom. So it started with like betas and critique partners and like friends that would turn into like these like long group chats, and like friends that have become like some of the most dear people to me in the world. And like I remember there was a time, there was like a local convention in my town, and I remember seeing about it, and that day I was like, oh, I could go to this. And so I kind of like on the spur of a moment was like, okay, I'll go to this. And I remember like driving to this convention, like, what am I doing? Showing up to this random, like, local, like, convention specifically for this random show. And then, like, But it was like kind of that first step to opening the door to like feeling like a human person again, because I had like shut out like social contact for so long, thinking because like, oh, I don't deserve to have friends. I don't deserve to be happy. All of this stuff where like, and then me going to this convention and like talking to people, like actually interacting with people. And then, I actually got to meet some of my friends in person for the first time. And that was like really incredible. And then just like, oh, like, wait, you also live in my city. We could actually hang out.
Instant friends.
Yeah. And then I met a whole lot of new people that I didn't know before. And it was just like, I think fandom provides a lot of like, you know, there's a lot of opportunity for people to like create these kind of relationships, and like not only on a social level, but just like you know, it feels good to be a part of something, and it feels good to like, you know, whether you're a creator or a cheerleader or a reader or like a gift set maker or artist or any like every person who's just like there, you know, it's like that feeling of like going to a concert and you're like, you know, you can listen to the music at home and you have this one experience, and you go to a concert and like the band is playing the song and everybody else, like 10,000 other people are
singing along with you.
Yeah. And it's just like, and then like when I went to like Comic-Con for the first time, I was just like, whoa, there's so many nerds here. I love it.
It's like, oh my gosh, is this what coming home feels like?
Yeah. Like I went to San Diego Comic-Con for the first time in like, maybe it was 2014, maybe it was 2015, 2014, I don't know. But like I went with like my fandom friends, and then we all like, we did nerdy things, and like we like sat in line for Hall H, and then like it was just like a constant like nerd like extravaganza where we were like, oh my gosh, like I love this thing, and also like hundreds of thousands of other people love this thing, and it's just very like validating.
It really is. And it's really magical too in like that same exact like sense, because like you're in this crowd of people and like you are literally no one here, but you don't feel alone, which is so much different than like, I used to live in New York City and it's just so crowded all the time and there are so many people. And like I have never felt like more, I have never felt lesser than nothing in my life, because I was just another cog in the wheel. But going to like a Comic-Con or like a concert or something, it's just like it feels different because you're not just another no one. It's like, oh, this is like this is like my home. Is this your home too? You know, let's talk about this in line. And you end up making so many friends while like waiting in line for Hall H or like waiting in line at Dragon Con outside in the like humid, stuffy heat. It's fine. I'm fine with that. But yeah, it's
amazing.
It really is.
Yeah, fandom definitely, like, I think being a part of fandom has like saved my life so many times. And like the power in like just seeing that connection through others, like it's such a real thing when you see people who can't be themselves at home or like, you know, in the physical realm, but like, you know, it was like the first time that I saw like discussions about like being demi or like discussions of like aromanticisms and asexuality that were like very like nuanced and interesting in a way that where I was like, oh, a lot of these feelings, like even just like being queer and like as a teenager, we're like reading Harry Potter fic, I'm like, oh wait, like Sirius and Remus are in love. I'm like, oh wait. Oh, okay, like that makes sense. Yeah, but like, also like,
yeah, like fanfic is where I realized like what asexuality was, and I, like when I was in high school, I was like, oh, I'm not broken. Like this is something that people can be, and it was very validating because I'm from a town in like the heart of the South, and it's a trip, but like you find your people and your place, and you realize that you are not like broken, and you're not something less than. You are just you're different and queer and proud and wonderful and special, and it's just, I don't know, fandom has saved my life so many times and like told me that I am worthy and wonderful, and it's just one of those things that I can't accurately describe.
Yeah, it's amazing because it's a moment when you're like, oh, I see you, and you are real, and you are important, and you're not broken. Like me, getting to say like, oh, I'm queer, like this is like I'm attracted to multiple genders, I can like feel this, and then like all like, and then the like learning about like aromanticism, and like so I'm more on like the demi side of like of being like demi romantic, and like have
just in case people don't know what that is, can you describe that?
Thank you.
I know, but some people don't. Yeah.
So like romantic attraction is like, oh gosh, there's a lot here.
I know.
Romantic attraction is different from sexual attraction.
Right.
Yeah, like I'm a demi-romantic asexual, so like you can have like they are two separate things, and demi-romanticism is basically like your comfort level. Well, like romanticism is like your comfort level like to someone, and like how far you want to let them into your life and how much you want to care about them. Is that like how you would also describe it, Carrie?
I feel like it's more of the lines of like, I don't know, like, and I'm still learning more about where I am and where, okay, like with asexuality, it's like how, and there's so many variations of like how much sexual attraction you have for a person. So I guess there's also like on the romantic side, like how much romantic attraction you have towards like feeling like this could be a relationship or like having like a partner, but like I would want those things, but like as like a teenager or like as a young person starting to date, I would not feel the things that other people would be feeling, and it would take me a very long time.
I would have to get to know them. Like I don't just automatically like someone. It's just not like, but like.
Because I feel more demi, like it would be because it does take me a while to build that like. I could see this person romantically. Like I would want to be in a relationship with them, but it's not something that I like look at a person and know, you know?
Right. It's more based on like how you interact with them, their personality.
I feel like there's a lot to unpack here. This could be a whole another conversation. There's a lot of really good like resources on but like Emma in Not Your Backup she's in the like aro and asexual spectrum where she's still defining what it means for her. And so a lot of what she felt in her, like the way when I was writing it felt very personal to me because she would have all of these like anxieties and insecurities about being in a relationship because she felt like that had so much expectation about what it would entail of her. Like, would he want to have sex? Like, would he want to do all these things that were like specifically like boyfriend, girlfriend, but like, could she do that? And she had never like been able to do that before, or like by the time she felt ready to do that, it was, but and then I kind of explored it in the character, but.
Sure. So it's complicated. It is
complicated, which is good to, when you say like it's a spectrum that like, you know, however you're feeling, you know, I always say that like there's no like wherever you are on that spectrum, you're valid. You know, you're not broken. However you're feeling and however you are, however you identify, and if that changes too, that's valid too.
Right. Yeah. I think people expect themselves to stay the same their entire life, and that's not necessarily true.
Yeah, you don't like find a box and just sit in it for the rest of your life. Like some people do, but
right.
But like you don't have to. You can be a hermit crab and hop from shell to shell if you want to.
Or you can create new boxes or like build a fort. I don't know.
Or just don't be in a box at all. Like, usually when someone asks me what my sexuality is, I just say I'm queer. Because, like, it's a nice, like, for me, it's a nice overall umbrella term that a lot of people understand. And, like you just, like, heard, it's, like, really hard to describe, like, to be romanticism and, like, asexuality. Because, like, a lot of people have different feelings about it. And...
Right.
Yeah, and it means different things to different people.
Exactly.
That's true.
So, like, some people are, like, completely, like, romance repulsed, or, like, and some people are, like, oh, yeah, like, I could see myself in a relationship. Or, like, some people are, like, you know, and same with sex. Like, some people are, like, oh, yeah, like, I'm ace, but I like sex, but I have very specific, I don't know. And some people don't like sex, or they don't like cuddles, or they don't like kissing, or some people do. Like, there's a lot There's a lot of...
There's a smorgasbord.
Yeah. I really love the word queer, too. I describe myself as, like, I'm bisexual. I'm also queer. Like, there's a lot of room in there for... I love that the word is inclusive enough to, like, describe everything that encompasses my identity without, you know, even as, like, I'm learning and as it's changing, and, like, attraction is so weird.
Attraction is really weird.
Attraction's weird.
like I am not attracted to Chris Evans usually, but Chris Evans in a sweater, just like why does that happen?
Okay, Tom Hardy, only attracted to him when he's like in a lobster tank and struggling to find the meaning of life.
Listen,
like when like I'm like, oh yeah, and then I remember like, oh yeah, I am also attracted to like guys
sometimes.
And I remember like, oh yeah, like it was a very different feeling for me because I hadn't thought about it in so long. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh yeah, this person is attractive.
That's like me every time I see Rachel Weisz. I'm like, oh God, I remember now. Or like Kay Stu. I'm just like, that's why I like Twilight.
She's spectacular. Also,
well, Kay Stu has become much. I feel like Kay Stu has become a lot more attractive as time has gone.
That is true
because she's become more comfortable with herself. I think that's so, like, a big part of it.
Like coming into her power and like there's this. There's actually Rachel Weisz in like The Mummy was like
yes, Rachel Weisz and Brendan Fraser in The Mummy is just.
It was just like. Yes, like, they're so attractive. And it's such a good movie!
It's such a good movie!
It's so, like, solid, and they both, like, adore each other, and it's, like, got adventure and mummies, and, like...
Yes, great. There are really bad racial stereotypes, but...
Oh, God.
Caveat.
Yes. But it's... Rachel Weisz,
Yeah, they're amazing. But I do want to go back to...
Sorry, we're going to take this away, and we're just going to talk about hot people. Anne Hathaway.
No. Oh my God, Anne Hathaway. Don't get me started on Anne Hathaway.
You know what I don't find attractive? Depression. So...
I don't know. Depression could be like Jessica Rabbit in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I'm not bad. I'm just drawn that way.
Oh my God. So I actually wanted to talk about the actual like process of writing because
I thought you were going to say like, the actual process of depression, and I'm just like, listen.
In your expert opinion,
Stage 1. I'm in my blanket fort.
I am a cozy burrito.
I watched an entire season of Supernatural in one day.
No, I've definitely done that.
No, that's how I watched it for the first time. The entirety of it.
You are a cozy burrito just watching Supernatural.
Yep, it was that and soup.
Yeah.
So
sorry.
As you were saying,
you're trying so hard to railroad us back onto
depression. Yes, we're still talking. Wait, no, we're not talking about depression.
We're talking about writing.
We're talking about writing. Oh, okay.
It'll all tie together. I swear.
Okay. We're gonna come back to the blanket burrito.
So. Oh my God.
I'm sorry.
That's definitely gonna stay in there.
No.
Okay, I snort too when I laugh, like, and it gets like up your nose, and then it's so funny that. Okay, writing. How does it happen? I don't know yet. Still haven't
Ashley,
figured it out.
you said that you like writing, but you don't like writing all the time, right?
Yes.
Do you find that like your writing or your inspiration or your productivity like is kind of like interacts with your mental health in both ways, you know?
Ooh,
does that make sense?
Yeah. So, I get most of my so the longer I'm on deadline for something, the worse my mental health becomes. Every single time. It doesn't matter if it's like for line edits or copy edits or like when I have to rewrite a manuscript. Like at the beginning, I am pretty healthy and good, and by the end, I have to take a week off and just burrito myself into my room and not do anything, because that's the way my brain ends up working. It like uses up all the happy, and then it just stops.
Oh.
And it is the worst, and I've tried everything to keep that from happening, and it just, like, no matter what I do, like, once I get to, like, the end of a journey, I feel so sad all the time. It's just, there's no way to, like, not feel sad at the end for me, because I'm saying goodbye to like, these characters that I've been with for, like, 70,000 words, and I'm happy for them, because they usually get a happy ending, because I'm not a monster. But by then, like, I have, like, put in, like, 10-hour days, because usually when I have to rewrite something, they give me like 2 weeks to do it.
Oh man.
So like I work like 10-hour days, and I get almost no sleep, because when I'm not writing, I am thinking about writing, because my brain like doesn't know how to shut itself off. So like by the end of the process, I am always like in a really bad mental space. And so, like, I, like, realize that every single time I get to the end of a project, because I always, like, schedule a week off, and I always, like, do things to like, get me back on track. I always, like, you know, treat myself and take care of myself. I play video games. I read books. I hang out with friends. And so, like, I, like, know how to like come back from like the end sads. But yeah, it's not easy, and I end up getting my best work done when I'm really depressed, which is
oh gosh,
which is not the best thing to talk about on a podcast when you're promoting mental health, saying that no, I write best when I'm really sad. No, it's just like, it's just really weird. My brain is really weird, and I do not recommend it.
Well, I mean, Carrie wrote the most when she was depressed too, right?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, I can definitely see, I don't know if it was easier or harder. I feel like it was a combination of like having the time and in that space where I was working these like jobs, and I was like, that was my only outlet of like anything fun. But you know, there are times like, you know, since then and fanfiction, like there's definitely times when I'm like, oh, I can't write because I'm too depressed, or am I depressed because I can't write, or like, you know, it's a circle where a lot of I would place this like value upon my, like, I think it's, as a creative person, you tend to like judge yourself based on how much you create, and then you tie your sense of self-worth to your productivity. And so I'm guilty of doing that, where I'm like, oh, I didn't write anything today, I'm terrible. And then I would have to try to be like, what I've learned is that, like, and I'm still learning it because it's not easy to say, like, I have to be gentle to myself, and I have to be like, oh, you did your best, because that's what I would say to my friend. Like, if my best friend said to me, like, oh, I'm a terrible person because I didn't write today, I'm like, no, you're amazing, you're beautiful, and I love you, and you're doing your best. And so I'm trying to treat myself better in terms of like writing, and because like creativity, it is hard because like, you don't always have that spark.
No,
you know?
You don't.
And you have to recognize that, like, you need time to recharge, and you need time to, like, just be and do things. And I think about the time, like, oh, you wasted, like, you know, a month of your life watching TV. And, like, but, like, it's not, and
but
I think
you really
back, I'm like,
though.
Right, like, well, yeah, but a lot of it's just like I was experiencing stories, and I was like living in that specific way, and and like every part of writing, there's nothing that's wasted. Like there's this amazing quote about like sourdough bread, or like if you're baking, everything, like there's no such thing as wasted effort, because everything that you make goes into like not only your skill and like what you learn, but like all the yeast and the bacteria and the air, it just adds more. And so that just makes your next loaf better, because you're like, everything that you're creating like, you know, the microbes in the air and like all of this stuff, like you're baking, and like it makes your next batch better. So as a writer, you're like doing these drabbles and snippets, and you're like, oh, I had to cut 10,000 words out of my manuscript. But like that act of doing it is not wasted.
Yeah, and like usually you just paste it into a different Word document and you reuse it later.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's just like you said, it's just like with like creativity, there are days when you can write and days when you can't. And like when I say that like my mental health like goes downhill when I'm like writing a novel in a certain amount of time is because I have to force myself every day to write like a certain amount of words or like meet a certain word count, because like I don't have the ability to have more time, if that makes any sense. It's like I am writing against a clock that I can't push back any further. And so if I don't meet this deadline, then like everything else is just like, you know, terrible. But as a career writer, you learn how to handle that though. And so like when I recognize that my mental health is going to be terrible after I finish this book, like you like learn how to cope with that and to like bounce back and to, you know, treat yourself later. And to like restore your creative juices and your creativity for the next project, which is always just like a week away every single time.
Oh my God.
It's hard because like creativity and like I think creativity and mental health are so tied together for me, especially. So my particular like I've had like depression. I've had major depression. I have a lot of anxiety. I'm also bipolar, so that's kind of been like my like experience with mental health has been in these ebbs and flows of extreme states. And I haven't had like manic mania to me is like it can be anything from like heightened energy to like huge bursts of creativity, but like and like on the extreme side, like, you know, to everything from like loss of memory and like doing very weird things, and like your thought process is so creative and so fast that like you jump from like A to F to X to Z, and like some like I think it's hard because like sometimes I can tap into that creativity, and I know there are like bipolar writers who can utilize like when they're manic and like can write a lot, and it's hard for me because like a lot of my struggle with mental health has been like being stable and like recognizing when, if I'm, you know, just like a lot of my self-care as an adult has been like recognizing how dangerous that is for me, and like not to let it get to that stage where I don't know what I'm doing. I remember like probably like the worst episodes I've had, like in high school, I had this like this state when like I would talk and people were like, I have no idea what you're saying. Like it was like my thought process was just not on the same wavelength anymore, and I wasn't like a cognizant human being. And then I've had like a few breaks in college, but like since like I haven't had like a really intense manic episode for like 8 years. But I get like these smaller bursts, but they're very scary to me because I don't want it to become this like huge thing. And I don't want to like lose control of my brain. So I have a very weird relationship with my own creativity, because on one hand, I know that I'm like very creative during those times, and I can like, I think I once wrote like 12,000 words in like 8 hours.
Holy shit.
And they were like amazing words too. Like they weren't just like gibberish. Like I like outlined this whole like thing, and like I like did all this like really productive stuff, but like it also came at the cost of like then I was like passed out for like 3 days. I don't know, like the recovery process was like not sustainable for me.
Was there like a loss of control you felt at all?
Like
or?
And that was just like a like, you know, like I wasn't sleeping, and then like to come back to like sleeping normally, and like yes, it was great, but it was also not like Ash said, like okay, I had to recover from that, where like, and then I wasn't producing anything like the next day. So I'm trying to like, I think I'm learning more like how to deal with my own mental illness, and like how do I write in a way that's like good for me, and feeling good. And it's been hard. It's been hard to write when I'm depressed, just because like, you know, how I feel about my writing, how I feel about the book all plays into it. But it comes down to like, you know, when you're on deadline, you have to do it.
Yeah, so you have to do it. There's no no to this. You have to do it.
So you just gotta like make yourself do it, and it is your job, and it's hard, and there's so much about it that like, but it's also exciting. Like,
it is.
Like it's like you pull it off and you're like, oh, wow.
It's like, I did it.
That was so cool. Like, I never want to do that again, but I just started a new project.
You feel like a tight rubber band for like the next 4 days, or at least like I do, because I have really bad anxiety that I am treated for. And I have like panic attacks a lot at conventions sometimes. So if you ever see me like duck out somewhere, it's because I'm having a panic attack, guys. But yeah, it's just like after I finish something, I have like I feel like this like I feel like I'm this like tight, nervous like ball of like depressed, anxious energy, and I feel like I'm just like a trench coat full of feral ferrets.
Yeah, most of the time I feel like I'm just pretending to be a human being.
Yeah,
like, what is my brain doing? You know, I'm like a pile of like nerves and anxieties and neurons that like serotonin. What's that?
Oh, serotonin? I've never.
Who is she?
She hasn't called me in years.
I visit her at the pharmacy every couple of weeks. So
serotonin? Oh, I swallow her daily. You're welcome.
Oh my god. Someone's having a good time. All right. So anyway, so yeah, thank you for sharing those stories, by the way. I really appreciate you guys being vulnerable, because I'm sure people who are listening have felt the same way, or want to know what that experience is like, or have never realized what that experience could be like. And you're opening up their eyes. So thank you so much for sharing.
It's not always healthy, but you're not alone.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I remember that being very like important, like mental health wise too, was that I thought I was the only one who felt like this. Like I'm a broken human being because my brain doesn't know how to do things that other people know how to do. Like, why is everyone so happy? Why is everyone like just living their life and like no one is freaking out about the things I was freaking out about. And then when my brain would do really weird things and, like I would be like, oh, like the first time I like met someone else who was bipolar and we started talking about like, oh, do you do this? Like, has this ever happened to you? And like knowing that like other people, like thousands and like, I don't remember what the statistic is, but it's pretty high. There's like millions of people who are bipolar, and they have these moods, and this is how they like, when it happens, how they can handle it. And like, when I had my first really terrible depression episode and then like a manic episode, I was like, oh my God, like I'm never going to have a life. I can never do anything. I won't ever be able to have a job. I won't ever be able to like be happy. And that was an assumption I made based on like the media that was like, oh my God, all crazy people are not functional. And like, they're like, the media does all these scary things about like,
yeah.
And so, meeting other people, reading a lot of literature, knowing like what Ash said about like, you're not alone, knowing other people go through this too. And it's a normal thing that like, I feel like it's hard enough to exist in the real world. And when we have, if you're neurotypical, or like if you have qualifiers to your stats, I don't know.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
That like, you're rolling with different dice, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's
like,
okay.
And that's also where fandom comes in too, because like it's easier to find other people who are also rolling with different kinds of dice, and like in different in fandoms, because like you're not just secluded to like your small little town where like no one is talking about their issues. Like you are part of a community. So full circle, guys.
Yeah. Depression like shrinks your world, where you're the only person who feels this way. There's nothing beyond this blanket burrito. Everything else is terrible. But like, there's a world
outside your apartment. There's a pigeon squashed on the street. Sorry, Avenue Q. It just hops into my head sometimes.
All right. So I think that's a good place to end it, if you guys agree. Do you guys have anything else you want to talk about?
When are you planning to air this?
Sunday.
Oh, okay. So I guess it's relevant to the now. I guess we can talk about like stuff that's coming up for us.
Yeah, I was gonna ask next. What do you have anything exciting coming up?
I don't have anything exciting coming up, like in the near future, but in the far future, I have 2 books coming out in 2020.
Yeah.
And
yeah, you do.
Yeah, I do. I'm so excited. The first one is Bookish and the Beast, comes out in the summer. It's fantastic. It's the 3rd and maybe final Once Upon a Con series book. So definitely check it out. And also in the fall, Among the Beasts and Briars is coming out from Balzer and Bray. And it's just, this is like my Fucky Fox book. I love it so much. This is the book of my dreams. Oh my god. It is everything that I ever wanted. It's about a royal gardener's daughter who has to go into this enchanted cursed wood to save her kingdom, and her only ally is a boy. Is a fox turned boy. And he is very salty. And they're
that's amazing.
Yeah, it's like my pitch for this book is always 2 idiots hiking in a woods trying not to kiss each other.
Nice.
I love it. I love it.
I'm very excited.
What about you, Carrie?
I have a book. I'm part of an anthology called Out Now, Queer We Go Again. I have a short story in that. It's out in May. I'm gonna say May.
Okay.
My short story is about 2 girls who meet in woodshop class. And
it's
in high school. It's high school. There's shenanigans. It's real cute. I also didn't know that we could write like fantasy or contemporary or like. It's so funny because like they're like, oh, it's only contemporary. I was like, oh, I can't put magic or anything in this. Okay, so I had to think really hard about like the kind of story I want to write. And then when they announced it, and like all these other people were like, oh yeah, this is my story. And then Caleb's got like vampires, and like I'm just like, what's happening here? I didn't know I could have vampires.
I wanted you to write vampires.
I actually started to write like this story about this ace girl in space, and she's on Mars. So and I was gonna call it Ace in Space.
Oh
or Space Ace.
God.
Nice.
I want that anyway. Can you just write that for me?
I have to finish it. But yes, I'll finish it. So that short story in that, and all the other stories in the anthology are going to be great. Like Julian Winters is in it, Tara Sims in it, like a whole bunch of really cool people. That'll be out in the spring. Not Your Hero, which is the next in the Sidekick Squad series, will have a date announced when it's ready.
Okay.
Well, that's a tease.
And then I have other stuff that I can't talk about.
Ooh, talk about a tease. Can you give us like any hints? Is that a no?
I don't know. There's one has to do with video games. Yes.
Like you're writing for a video game?
No.
Listen, this isn't 20 questions. We can't figure this one out.
Wait, I also write Ben 10.
Oh yes,
graphic novels. There's a bunch of them. They're real fun. The first one's about finding Bigfoot, and then the second one, they go undercover at a science camp, and then
they're so adorable. I love them.
Thank you. And then Gwen gets a mecha suit and punches monsters.
Amazing.
I don't know if they've released any info about the next ones yet, so that's all I will say about those.
Okay. So where can listeners find you on social media?
You can find me at Ash Poston on Twitter and _ Ash Poston on Instagram because some asshole is squatting on my name. And I'm also on TikTok, but you're just going to have to find me.
That's so funny. Oh my god, I'm going to look for you.
Try it.
I will. Carrie?
I'm on Instagram and Twitter at CBLEE _ CBLEE. And I have a website that's cb-lee.com. I think that, those are all my things. Nope, those are the things.
You don't have a secret TikTok?
Okay.
I don't, I don't know if anything, like Vine was such a moment.
Yeah, but TikTok is the moment Vine. Now. TikTok is the new moment.
Yeah, I don't think I'm cool enough. It would just be like videos of me being like,
That's fine.
That's so cute, though. She was just dancing a little bit for all you listeners. Listen, it has my seal of approval. Okay.
Carrie's holding a seal.
Yeah, that's where you can find me on the internet. And
sweet.
Yeah, you can talk to me on the internet through those means.
Yay!
For a second, when you said your Twitter handle, I was like, no, it's Trashly Posted, but that's not. That's in your.
That's my like name.
Handle.
Yeah, it's not my handle. It's just my name because I'm just a trash human who has trash takes. Raylo forever.
Oh my god! I was just having an argument with Danielle about that.
No. Oh boy. Please, no one hate me. I love everyone.
I couldn't give less of a shit. You love Raylo as much as you want.
I mean, I love Finn and Poe more, but I hate J.J. Abrams for being a coward. Let's be
Make it gay, you cowards.
Yeah, make it
they
gay.
Love each other. You solve this love triangle with polyamory. Poe has 2 hands.
I'm sorry. That's just. I mean,
and a mouth.
Ray,
okay, so
Ray, Finn, and Poe.
Oh my god, and Ben Solo.
What?
That's
a square.
It's a square.
That's amazing.
They have enough holes, I think.
So, thank you so much for listening. Please take a moment to subscribe, review, and rate us. It's the easiest way to support us. This week's review comes from from Ashley Snorting.
I like the triangle.
Oh my god, you guys. This is the most NC-17 our podcast has ever been.
I feel like it's still rated T. There was only 1 fuck, maybe.
There were 3 fucks.
There were 3 fucks. Okay, now there's been 5.
There's a lot of descriptions that we're getting a little too close to NC-17. Anyway, this week's review comes from Ross Girl. I like this review. Oh my god, Ashley can't stop laughing. You knew there was a reason you're drawn to stories about good versus evil, or superpowered people, or worlds beyond our own. A lot of times, it's something inside us that just can't be expressed or exercised by regular human stories. Well, this is the podcast that explores that connection with insight, empathy, and wisdom. God, stop it. Oh my god. If you want to chat with us about the episode, our social medias are Fandom and Wellness on Instagram, Fandom and Wellness on Facebook, and Fandom Wellness on Twitter. You can find me at The Box of Shadows, Arkita at Classy Rebel Design, and Danielle at Little Petal, all on Instagram. And if you want bonus content, you can join our fandom family at patreon.com/fandom and wellness for Patreon exclusive geek sessions. Carrie and Ashley, do you want to say our sign off?
Sure. How did you keep a straight face through that?
I don't think I can't do anything straight, so.
Do you guys know what the sign off is?
Be kind.
Rewind?
No.
Be kind.
And take no shit.
Amazing. Oh my god.